Futures Radio Show, sponsored by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world effectively manage risk. For access to free educational tools and resources for the active individual trader, please visit activetrader.cmegroup.com.
Every day, traders and investors dive in to tackle the ever-changing markets to find opportunity. Futures Radio Show is your number one source for answers to the questions that all market participants want to ask. Veteran futures trader Anthony Crudele sits down with the most influential leaders and top traders in the industry. Now, here's your host, Anthony Crudele.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for this episode with Terry Savage. Remember, new shows are posted every Monday and Thursday. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes and YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a review on iTunes. Before I play today's interview for you, I want to give a shout out to the great sponsors of Futures Radio Show: CME Group, Trading Technologies, RJO Futures, and Top Step Trader. To learn more about these sponsors and the important things they are doing for futures traders, be sure to click on their logos on our website. Today I spoke with Terry Savage, nationally syndicated financial columnist. Quick background on Terry. She was a founding member and the first woman trader at the CBOE. She was the first woman board member at CME Group and also an early trader and seed owner of CME's IMM. Today, Terry and I chatted about her experience becoming a founding board member and the first woman trader at CBOE. She shares with us her experience being on the floor of CME and how that propelled her career as a financial columnist. We talked about investing with trading profits, and last but not least, Terry gives us her thoughts on crypto and blockchain. Without further ado, let me take you right to the interview with Terry. Terry, thank you for joining me.
Delighted to be with you.
Well, I'm delighted to have you, Terry. You were a founding member and the first woman trader on the CBOE. That's pretty awesome, Terry. And so what I want to talk to you about is what you went through to get to that point, and then talk to us about how you felt after you achieved that.
Well, that was a long, long time ago, and in case people are trying to figure exactly when the CBOE opened, it was April 23rd, 1973, and I remember it very well, of course, but not for reasons most would remember. I was actually pregnant with my son that time. I was the only one on the trading floor who had a seat. They pulled a stool up in the corner, taking one look at me and saying, "Don't you dare go out in the crowd. Sit over there." And that's what I did on opening day. But then I came down a few months later to trade full time.
Why did you want to become a trader?
Well, I'm not sure I wanted to become a trader, but I sensed that that's where the world was going. I was, I turned down a graduate school Woodrow Wilson fellowship after I got a summer job working in a brokerage firm, typing out confirmations. So it was a while ago. And I really got hooked on the financial markets. I was an economics major, and so I thought that would be a great part-time job till I went to Berkeley. And instead, I got hooked by the markets and the reality that the markets tell you what's going on in the world and price it every minute of every day. But they wouldn't let me be a broker. This is not that long ago. It's the early 70s, and the firm said, well, we don't train girls to be brokers, but if you take the correspondence course and you pass the test, we'll let you be a registered secretary and give you a $5 a week raise. One of the things about my life is I've never been able to take no for an answer. I passed the course. I went to every department in the firm. The bond department taught me this, and the new issues underwriting department taught me that. So I was pretty well trained and graduated into what looked like it was going to be a bull market until the crash of 74. And I had a big client who traded options. And in the process of being the broker for this company, I learned a lot about options. And that guy said to me, the options exchange is going to open up. You ought to buy a seat. And so I did for $10,000. It was one of the better investments in my life.
So you also went to the floor of CME, where I spent many years as well. Talk to us about your experience on the trading floors at CME.
Well, I also bought an IMM seat, not on the initial offering, but very early on. And I thought, let me explain that back in those days when I was trading on the CBOE floor, it was a very interesting kind of a setup because there were desks right behind, phones straight to the New York Stock Exchange trading floor. And it took me about a nanosecond to realize that this floor broker in the pit was getting messages from New York about big orders that were going to cross either higher or lower, and buying puts or calls based on, actually in the beginning it was only calls, based on that information. I thought, well, I don't think I can beat these guys at that game. So I was looking around and I bought the IMM seat and thought, this is for me, money in its purest form. And I wanted to trade currencies. I traded sterling in the days when that was a big market. And I traded treasury bills. And that was the key to my entire future career as a financial columnist, as an author of 4 books about personal finances, investing, and money. Because here's what happened. By then, I was appearing regularly on the NBC television station in Chicago. They thought it was really cool to have a girl talking about money and interest rates. And you know how at the end of the news, there's always a cute little story, or there was in those days when things were happier, something about a dog finding his way home or whatever. I went to the news anchor on Monday and said, I want to be that kicker story on your show on Monday. And here's why. Probably don't remember this. This would be way before deregulation. But in those days, and we're talking now in the early 70s, interest rates were soaring. Interest rates were soaring. And as interest rates went up, depositors only had 2 choices. They could get 5.25% interest really in a savings and loan, and 5% in a bank on CDs, unless you had $10,000. And then every Monday, a 6-month CD was issued based on the rate of the Treasury bill auction that took place at noon on Monday. Actually, the rates changed on Tuesday morning. And so rates were going up to 8-9%. People were really interested in these CDs. Suddenly I realized I'm standing on the trading floor at noon. I know what the 6-month auction is going to be. But in those days, they didn't tabulate it until 6 or 7 o'clock at night when the banks were closed. So I devised the idea of going on the noon news at the end, calling down to a friend on the trading floor and saying, what's the auction look like? What's it 6-month trading at? And he'd say, about 9.25%. And I knew that the previous week it had been 8.9%. So I'd go on TV and say, hey, if you've got a CD coming due today, don't renew it this afternoon. Tomorrow the rates will be at least 0.25% higher.
Wow.
People thought I was a genius. I was, past posting, as they used to say in the racetrack business. The markets, I had the information edge. And I once got a call. This is Fire Engine Company 99. We were out on a run. What did you say interest rates were going to do tomorrow? Or if the rates were going to drop down, I'd say, hey, renew this afternoon because tomorrow they'll be a little bit lower. But people really thought I was a genius. I just understood the futures markets. And that really, really made my career on television, which I continued to do. In fact, these days I now appear on Wednesday mornings on WGN TV in Chicago and at noon on WGN Radio in Chicago.
No, Terry, you do great work. And
Thanks.
you know how impressed I am with you. I think you're a legend, but something that I'm really, really impressed with you is your vision. And it's withstood the test of time. We talked about how you were the first woman on the CBOE. You bought an IMM. We're going to get into a little bit here about you being the first woman board member of CME Group. But before all of that, you were a huge advocate of electronic markets. I mean, we know that you're an old school trader coming from the floors. I am as well. But I was a big advocate for electronic trading too. But you were out there talking about it, writing about it, and really helping push this through. What gave you the vision and really the courage at that time? Let's face it, Terry, it took courage to go out there and say, hey, you know what, everybody, we're going from pit to screen.
Well, I didn't think about it. First of all, I had a lot of friends on the floor. And lest any of them might be listening in still today, I should give a disclaimer right away. Over the years, I've made a whole lot more money talking about the markets than trading them. I'm a very good long-term investor, so I ate my own cooking in that regard. But I was not cut out to be a floor trader, but I spent a lot of time on the floor in each of those floors figuring that out. And I understood how the floor worked, how the pits worked, and it was such a great industry. I literally shed a tear today for the loss of those wonderful, wonderful swarming moments on the trading floor when you could feel the energy like a wave going across the floor. But inevitably, and as I stood in line at the post office this morning, I thought, boy, I can't wait till technology gets here. No wonder email and FedEx have taken over their business. Inevitably, things progress. I must say I had the advantage of Leo Melamed had championed my cause for being a girl trader on the floor of the IMM. There was Mickey Norton, who was the legendary first floor trader in the major pits of the CME. But Leo Melamed encouraged me to buy that second seat on the IMM. And Leo was really the proponent of electronic trading with Globex. And by then, I was on television on a regular basis, and it was a great visual story. Will one day these shouting pits and screaming and brightly colored people, will that all be replaced by these green numbers, they were green then, going across the screen? It seemed inconceivable, and yet I thought it was inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Leo Melamed. He is the man. Every time I see him, I go up to him, I shake his hand, I go, thank you, sir, for giving me a career, because when I was on the trading floor at the time, nobody would trade with me in the pit, and when they launched the E-mini S&P, really changed my life. So obviously, a big shout out to Leo. Changed the world.
Yeah,
I mean, Leo.
Giant shout out. And many people who are listening to this will not, either because they knew him personally or because he created so much of the markets that have changed our world today. So it was, financial futures, first of all, and then electronics.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't know who Leo Melamed is, just Google him and just start reading about him, because he's
read Back to the Future.
He's an amazing person. Yep. Now, I already mentioned that you were the first woman board member of CME Group, and you've been on the board, I think, pretty much right since we went public, right? I mean, not too soon after. Mm-hmm. And since that moment, there are now 4 women on the board. And I think a lot of that credit goes to you for being the first woman on the board and paving the way for more women to come on. So talk to us about what that's been like for you.
Well, first of all, I was fortunate enough to join the board. I didn't get stock on the initial public offering, but it was one of those cases where I decided I was going to go out and buy stock immediately afterward. And a portion of my fee, and all directors' fees, is paid in stock. So I'm a big cheerleader for CME. I'm a director, so I can't talk about the company or the stock in that regard. But I will tell you a cute story. Yes, I was the first woman. And then I brought on board another woman, Anna Dutra, who is an economist and trained with the former Fed President Mike Moscow, and was head of a big consulting firm, and was until recently chairman of CEO of the Executives Club. So I brought Anna on board. And then, because, we have the Class B shareholders, Liz Cook, who is a spectacular director and a floor trader and really a pro, came on board. And the ladies' room on the executive floor of CME has only, I'm going to say this, and I hope you don't have to believe this, but it has only 2 toilet stalls. And the first day the 3 of us were at a meeting, we all rushed out at the break together, and I took a picture. I said, look at this. A line in the ladies' room. There are 2 stalls and 3 of us. And I just was really a terrific day. Now we since have a 4th, a professor from MIT. And, seriously, in corporate governance, it's been shown that you need diversity of viewpoints. Corporations that do have that kind of diversity tend to outperform in the stock market. And also, I think it's just the right thing to do. So I'm very pleased that we now have 4 women on the board of CME Group. Yeah. Out of a very large board, I might add.
Terry, I want to talk a little bit about current day and how you've helped traders after they've made some money and what to do after they've made some money. Now, listen, I'm the first to say I made a big mistake of just pushing harder and harder at my futures trading and really didn't diversify away from futures because I just wanted to trade bigger, Terry. That's just the way I was built. I made money that way. I wanted to keep pushing it.
That's the gene, by the way.
It is.
If you didn't have that gene that said, I can dominate this market, you wouldn't be a successful trader. And that's what makes it all the more difficult to take some very simple financial advice, because it requires a giant ego and some brains, but a good feel also. I just think it's a genetic thing that makes you a good trader. But I think that's the kind of thing that also makes you avoid taking some sensible advice. So that's why I'm around to teach people about personal finances.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The competitive nature in me, I just kept pressing, and that's how I made more and more money until I started to lose a lot of that money. Then I smartened up and said, whoa, maybe this isn't going to last forever. And then I went out and got some advice on what to do with some of the money that I had left. So Terry, talk to us about that. Talk to us about what you're doing current day and helping traders and many other people do with their profits.
Well, traders have the same problem as poor people with credit card debt. They just can't see outside of the box they're in. And it's equally difficult, frankly, for a trader who's made a big score, continues to make big scores, and has the big house and has the wife and the flashy diamonds, to even conceive that that might not all be there. So there's just a few simple things. Everybody knows that to be a successful speculator, you have to take some money off the table, because desperate money never makes money. That's an old savage truth and an old market adage. I remember that from the time when I was a stockbroker, and there were some people I could do no wrong for. They always made money. I put them in the best stocks. I tried to do that for everyone. And some people didn't have a lot of money, and they were just so uptight. So desperate money never makes money. So you always want to have a cushion. Cushion is what I call chicken money. And people laugh at this but I think it's nothing to be ashamed of. Chicken money is simply money you've decided you can't afford to lose, and you put it someplace where there is zero risk. You don't get rich, but you don't get poor in treasury bills, at 2.5%. See, right away, half the traders just turned off. Who is this lady? I need all my money in my trading account. But believe me, you get a psychological edge by not being desperate. So you take that money just out of your hands, go to Treasury Direct, and you know what your number is. Put $100,000 in there. Put $250,000 in there. Then you're never worried about losing the house. Second thing, a trader should always pay off his or her mortgage. Never have a mortgage. That puts another kind of pressure on you. I mean, it's not bad enough to have a family, but never have a mortgage if you're a trader. And the third thing is make a will. Better yet, make a revocable living trust, so that you know, in case you don't come home tomorrow night, not because the markets wipe you up, but something else happens, that your future and the future of your family and your children is all taken care of. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of life insurance in an irrevocable life insurance trust outside your estate. You see, I'm very superstitious, and I know a lot of traders are. And I'm telling you that if you don't get organized about your money, if you don't set some chicken money aside, if you don't make an estate plan, if you don't set up a 529 college savings account for your kids, fully fund it, you and your spouse can each give $30,000, each give $15,000 a year, $30,000 a year to an account for each child, so you know their college is not at stake anymore. If you do those things, I think your spirit, your intuitions, your trading ability is enhanced because you don't have those nagging worries. So those are the key things I would advise every trader to do. The minute you make some, take some money off the table and set it aside. Get organized, get legally set up, buy a little insurance, and make sure your kids' college is taken care of and there's nobody going to foreclose on your house. Then you can go on to greater success trading.
Yeah, no, it's great advice, Terry, and I appreciate what you do going out there, and saying this to traders. It needs to be heard by traders, because we could be a little hard-headed at times.
I did this for Lothing, his courses, and it was for young traders or people just getting started. And I said, I know you're all sitting out there going, conservative. That's like my mom. All I'm telling you is I want you to not have these anxieties and worries. It's not a sign of weakness to do a sensible plan.
No. And it was funny, you mentioned superstitious. I wore the same black chip shoes, I think, for almost 2 years. I wore them until they fell off my feet, Terry. I was making money. I wasn't taking those off.
I get superstition. I still have some of the diamonds left over from superstition because I was married to a trader. When my son was 15, I sent him down to Florida, the old Board of Trade, as a kind of intern runner, whatever it was, because I figured if he got the trading gene from his father, who was a great trader, then I wouldn't have to worry about his college education. Turns out he's today very successful in the market business, financial business, equities, but he does not get the trading gene, and so I'm glad I paid for college.
Well, Terry, I mentioned earlier that I think you're a visionary. You've been on the pulse of the market since you started about what the new technologies and the next big thing is going to be in the industry. What are your thoughts on cryptos and blockchain?
I think it's the next big thing. I think you have to separate those from just a moment, not that both of them won't be big. But I think that blockchain, distributed ledger technology, is absolutely going to change our world. I mean, I wish I had 40 or 50 more years to see what comes of it. Because, I remember doing stories, I know this sounds ancient, guys, but I've been around for a bit, when the Federal Reserve had helicopters landing on the roof on LaSalle Street, bringing in literally bags of checks, canceled checks. And you deposited a check from an out-of-town or out-of-state bank, and you had to wait 5 to 7 days for your money. That's the float. Somebody was getting rich off that float. Today, I deposited a check recently from one Chicago bank to another. They said you get $200 today, immediate cash. I mean, and I've never overdrawn my account, but that's the deal. You put it in, and $4,800 of this $5,000 check would be available the next day. Well, blockchain technology will eliminate the float. That'll upset a lot of people, and it will create complete security of transactions. And you think about when you go buy a house, you need title insurance, because who knows if someone hasn't made a claim years past. We don't keep the records. But a distributed ledger technology will do that. It's coming. It's going to change everything from how Walmart figures out what salmonella is in the lettuce to how property is transferred. It's so exciting. And the cryptocurrencies, the real weakness in crypto is the points at which you transfer your US dollars or euros or yen into, there's 2,000 cryptocurrencies. But just the immediate problem with it is, in a word, Mt. Gox. But did you just see recently Fidelity announced that it was going to create a platform for cryptocurrencies and hold custody of them? So that changes that game of cryptos. Now, we'll see which ones become more valuable in their usage. We'll see. I mean, it's so exciting, but it really is coming fast.
Yeah, yes, it is. Terry, I could talk to you all day about all these different things. It's always great to speak with you, but I've got some rapid fire questions next if you're ready for those.
All right, I'm going to give it a shot.
All right, everyone, our rapid fire segment is sponsored by Trading Technologies. Access to global markets from virtually anywhere with TT. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. And now you can trade cryptocurrency spot and derivative markets side by side. For more information, please visit tradingtechnologies.com. Terry, what trader has influenced your life the most and why?
Oh, trader. Well, there's no doubt that Leo Melamed, who wasn't really the world's greatest trader, but he influenced my life the most. And I guess probably the man I married, Jack Savage, so many years ago, because he gave me my son. So that's probably the best influence.
What was one of the hardest things for you to overcome in your trading?
Being a girl or a woman or a young woman. No kidding. Nobody gave a darn on the trading floor of a CME. You could have been a purple people eater in those days. They were going to step on you. So it was hard to get over the physicality of it and the vocality of it. So it's probably one of the reasons I'm not still trading on the floors, or wasn't at the end.
Terry, how has your trading process evolved over the years?
Well, basically, I'm a better investor than a trader. I like to buy and hold. And I found out over the long run, I've done just that. I was the first woman on the board of directors of McDonald's, for example. And I took all my director's fees in stock. And because I was a director, I couldn't sell. It was an interesting way to view it, because there were plenty of ups and downs, both in the markets and McDonald's stock. But today, it's at all-time highs. And I learned that buy and hold kind of works. So I'm not a trader at heart.
What is one attribute that you believe every trader should have?
One attribute that every trader, humility. The market's always right.
What's your favorite book that you've read lately?
I just finished Pachinko, which is was a fascinating novel about Koreans in World War II and how North and South Korea really came basically to be.
What's your favorite
movie? And
movie?
Pachinko is a gambling parlor, by the way. So I guess there was a money angle to that story, too.
What's your favorite movie about trading?
Oh, Trading Places, for sure. For sure. I could watch that over and over and over again. And I see orange juice collapsing lately, and it reminded me of that movie for sure.
What's the best piece of advice that you've received about trading?
It's not wrong to be wrong. It's only wrong to stay wrong. That was a great piece of advice long ago. It's not wrong to be wrong. It's only wrong to stay wrong. Think about it.
Now, if you could go back and give a piece of advice to the younger you, what would it be?
Gosh, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I've been around for a while, and I'm very appreciative for all my blessings, and particularly in connection with my career and the financial markets. If I gave some advice to the younger me's out there today, I would say, please respect our system of free markets. It's created more wealth, more prosperity for more people than any other system on the planet. We got to be very, very careful that in the interest of doing well for people, we really don't destroy opportunity. Someone long ago said to me, yeah, capitalism is the unequal distribution of wealth, but socialism is the equal distribution of poverty. That's a savage truth.
Last question for today, Terry. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
That's easy. You know how every preacher of virtue has a secret vice, all those, pastors on TV that are out running around? Well, my secret, or not so secret for those who know me, vice is I have horses. And you will find me on a beautiful day out riding my horses on the trail because that's my greatest joy.
Terry, where could people find you on social media, preferably Twitter, and give us a website to check out?
Yeah, Terry Savage, TerrySavage.com is my website, and every week I post a new syndicated column. I have a newsletter, it's free, and I write it when I'm in the mood, like when something's going wild in the market. And you can follow me on Twitter at Terry Talks Money.
Terry, what can I say? This was awesome. It is such an honor to know you and an honor to have you on Futures Radio Show today. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or my guests, please visit futuresradioshow.com and sign up to be a premium member for free. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes.